Aloha, welcome to the Oceana University of Medicine community. It is so nice to see each and every one of you here at the end of the year in our last webinar of 2025. I want to acknowledge each and every one of you who have joined us either for the entire set of webinars from January of this year, or maybe just a few, or maybe even this is your first webinar at OUM that you've had a chance to attend. So wherever you are at in your medical student journey, I want you to know that you are welcome here and that we are here to support you in your decision making and ensure that you have all the information that you need to make the best decision for you personally possible. So I wanted to say a special hello and talofa to Dimitri and Dushyant and Jackie and Malik and Scott and Uto who are joining us here in person. And if you are joining us via recording, a special welcome to you as well. If you haven't had the chance to meet me yet, my name is Associate Professor Nicolette McGuire, and I am the Associate Dean for Student Engagement here at OUM. And I'm also a faculty member in the preclinical portion of the program, which is in the first 2 years. And I am actually preparing now to teach the endocrine unit that is coming up in January of this year. So for anyone who is joining us in the January 2601 cohort, that's the course you'll be taking around this time next year. So we want to ensure through this session in particular that all of you have some information about the advice that we provide to our students about balancing their bodies and minds as they become medical students, which is really something that is like an ultra marathon and not a sprint, and ensuring that they have a happy and healthy pathway through medical school or wherever they happen to be in the world. So whether you are a student that is located in Australia or Aotearoa, New Zealand, or Samoa, or Canada like me, or the United States, we want to ensure that you have services and supports available that are going to be there for you when you need them. So in our typical webinar sessions, we have someone from our faculty and staff, and I ask them some questions about their area and give you more information about that. So for those of you who joined us in our last webinar just a couple of weeks ago, we had Dr. Jenny Wilkinson talking about our research program. And we've also had some of our deans talking about what the requirements are for students in Australia, for example, for students in North America, and then for students in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Samoa. So my area specifically at the university is in student engagement and health and well-being. So instead of having someone here that I'm interviewing, I'm just going to give you some further information about our services and supports and some of the advice that myself and my colleagues give to students on an ongoing basis to ensure that they're having the best experience possible in medical school. No one goes into medical school thinking that it's going to be easy. However, many things happen throughout a medical student's pathway where they may need some help and support to continue in a way that is healthy for them and also enables them to get the best experience possible in their learning and for their future patients. So I want to take a moment as I've got my lovely background here and as we approach the end of 2025 and the end of the month of December to wish everyone a very healthy and happy holiday season. This is a really joyful time of year for many reasons, and it's a really complicated time of year for many reasons. So, whatever mix of joy and complication that you have in your holiday season, I hope it is one that you will look back on with fond memories, and also one that allows you to have a little bit of time and respite to reflect on the year behind you. So often we have students or prospective students attending these webinars who think about attending medical school for a long time. Maybe it's a lifelong dream. Maybe it's something that you had planned to do when you finished college and it wasn't in the cards for various reasons. Maybe you're just finishing college now and it's on your mind. Maybe you're well into a first or second career, but you've never been able to get rid of that feeling of wanting to be a doctor and wanting to help people through medical arts and sciences. So wherever you happen to be along there, there are services and supports available to you at OUM. So one of the things that we talk with our new students about is about, how to balance being in medical school with the various responsibilities that you have and that come from living a life, whether it's graduating from university or whether it is having a family or having another career. Adding medical school to that is really challenging in all of those life circumstances. So we do talk with our students about how do you balance? How do you get a good, instead of saying a work-life balance, how do you get a good school and life balance? And I would love to be able to stand or sit here and tell you, 3 bullet points about how to get the best balance for how to work your current life around adding medical school to that. However, there is no magic formula for that. The way to really think about that is, how much do I want this? How motivated am I to do this? Is the right time for me now? Is the right time going to be coming up soon in the future? Or is it never going to be the right time for me? All of those things are okay. But when you talk with students at OUM, a lot of them will say that they had thought about medical school for a very long time or had even thought about going to OUM for a couple of years before applying and starting school. And the only real regret that they had was not starting sooner. But again, it's a personal choice for everyone. And we want to ensure that each person has information that helps support their own individual decision making. OUM isn't the best choice for every single person. It has been the best choice for all 383 of our current students. And I'm so, so grateful and thankful that it was the right choice for them, because they're really each fantastic individuals and are going to make amazing doctors. But one of the ways that students and prospective students find out information for their decision making is to talk with an admissions counselor at OUM. So if you haven't had a chance yet to fill out the form on the website that just says, hey, I want to talk with an admissions counselor, or you haven't just reached out directly to Ms. Janda or Ms. Camille, I just really encourage you to do that as a step in your decision-making process. Janda and Camille know an amazing amount of things about our university, and they have a lot of information to share. But beyond that, they're just two truly very nice people. I had a wonderful opportunity to meet with them today to plan some special events coming up next year. And I just really always personally appreciate the opportunity to talk with them. And I know that you will too, not only because they're very nice people, but also because they have a lot of information, and they are not just going to provide you with a slew of information. They're there to answer your specific questions about the things that you need. So I really encourage you, as part of your decision making, no matter how far you are in your decision making about whether OUM is the right choice for you, to really reach out and talk with us through our admissions office, because they can really cater the information to you and make sure that you have the things you need. Um, the other thing that I want to say is that there is not going to be a perfect balance between all of the information that you get from Shanda and Camille and balancing your current life right now. You will probably have to make some changes in your current life in order to go to medical school. But honestly, you're constantly making changes in your life, anyways, in order to pursue the things that are important to you and to pursue the things that are in your mind and that you are motivated to do. So I really like to think about balancing medical school and current responsibilities as like a surfing. There's no perfect way to balance on a surfboard, especially if you're not just going to sit in a calm pool of water. The whole point of being on a surfboard is finding waves. And so that's what it's going to be like in medical school and in life. There's always going to be waves. That's what makes surfing fun. That's what makes medical school and life fun. You just want to have a surfboard that you can rely on and that you feel comfortable on, and that you kind of get your feet underneath you. So we really encourage our students to do information gathering in order to get that. Also, when we bring students into the university, we have a number of pre-orientation activities and orientation activities to make sure that you get everything, your perfectly balanced surfboard for the waves that you're going to have to be surfing underneath you. So, for example, once you are accepted to the university, we have a meet and greet so that you get to meet the other students in what we call your cohort. That's all the students that are starting general principles with you at the same time. So you get to make study groups and get to make some local connections and some international connections, which is something that OUM students really enjoy and appreciate, is being able to be with students in a classroom when students are in different time zones and in different continents throughout the world. So that meet and greet is really an excellent opportunity for you to meet other students before you even start medical school. We also have a financial information session and Q&A directly with our CFO and bursar to make sure that you've got everything you need for your tuition and fees before you start at the university. My colleague and myself run a set of sessions called Study Skills for Student Success, because what we heard from our admissions counselors is that students are really concerned about entering medical school, especially if they have been out of university for a while or haven't been studying in an academic context for a while. Want to make sure that their study skills are up to par, because everybody hears about how going to medical school is like drinking from a fire hose, and they want to make sure that their study skills are up to snuff. So we do run a couple of sessions to help support you to up your study skills before you even start. And at that time, we also offer you the opportunity to be connected with what we call our student success advisors. And you may be familiar with this program if you attended our webinar earlier this year with my colleague, Dr. Chinwe Okeke, who is our manager for the program of student success advisors. So our student success advisors, or SSAs, are faculty members and former students, alumni that are practicing. And the purpose of an SSA is really to be your guidepost, your mentor as you start medical school, and they are available and can continue to be paired with you throughout your entire medical student journey. So they're like your North Star when you enter the university. So they are really helpful when you first start, doing things like time management and helping you take a study skills assessment and giving you tools to help build your study skills, advocating for you when you have certain needs, giving you direction about who to contact when you have a certain need at the university. So they're a really great part of our suite of support programs. The SSA program comes at no additional cost to any of our students, and there's no specific requirements that you don't have to meet with your student success advisor any minimum number of times or any particular time at the week. You schedule that at times that are mutually agreeable to both you and your SSA. And sometimes for various reasons or because you maybe have a change in what you're looking for from an advisor, sometimes we make a switch in the match of an SSA at a student's request, and that is all possible too. Again, we're really focused on individual students' success. So if someone comes to us and they have a need to have a change, it really doesn't bother us in the least. It just means our students have a different need, and we're more than happy to support that. We don't take that kind of thing personally at all. In fact, we prefer that because we want to make sure that you're supported in getting what you need, and that SSA can then go to another student that has another need that may be better suited for that. What else do I want to tell you about SSAs? SSAs are really there to treat you as like a whole person. You're not just someone who is sitting behind a computer screen, typing A, B, C, D, or E into practice quizzes or raising their hand and providing a few bullet points to answer a question. And you're going to find that in any of the faculty and staff that you work with at OUM. You are not a number to us. You are not a faceless person behind a screen. You are not just one of the people that's going to become a doctor. You are you, an individual with their own motivations, their own background, their own unique skills and abilities. And it's you that we want to become a doctor. And it's you that we want to support to become a doctor. We're not interested in only one specific type of student, only one specific type of doctor. We want to see, we're investing in you. We want to see you succeed. So the way that our programs are structured is to help you succeed, not to help you be one more block of ice in our ice cube tray. No, you are a unique person, and that's how you're going to be treated when you're at OUM, from the time that you first call an admissions counselor to the time that you walk across the stage and accept your diploma from the Vice Chancellor of the university. You're you, and that's why we want you here at OUM. There's a lot of different reasons for why students decide to go to medical school, and a lot of different reasons for why students choose OUM. The main thing that you need to think about, and that this is a really good time of year to consider, is what's my motivation for going to medical school? I probably do have what it takes, but am I motivated to go through all of the trials and tribulations and the big investment of time that going to medical school requires? So motivation can be intrinsic and extrinsic, and you're going to find a lot of extrinsic motivators at OUM, because for people who kind of have a competitive spirit, they'll find other students that have a competitive spirit, and they can be in like a healthy competition with each other. For students who are more collaborative, you'll find a lot of richness in study groups, and a lot of students who are willing to put in the work to developing practice questions and gaining knowledge so that they can have good discussions and study pre-exam study with you. And a lot of people find a good extrinsic motivation when they're accountable to others. And so we do try to make sure that if you are someone who likes a lot of extrinsic motivation from peers, that's available to you. You'll also find a lot of extrinsic motivators at OUM because you'll have a lot of people checking in with you. Whenever I personally hear about any students who are having any types of barriers to their education, have a look at our mission statement if that's not ringing true for you, because we have a mission to remove personal and professional barriers to becoming doctors for all of our students. So anytime I hear about any type of personal or professional or academic barrier for students, and I don't just hear that by randomness, all of the faculty and staff at the university, anytime they interact with a student who's having a little bit of trouble, they will let me know and I will reach out to that student, make sure that they have what they need to feel successful. Sometimes it's just me checking in and saying, hey, you're doing an amazing job. Keep going. Let me know if you need anything. Sometimes it's me providing a bit more longer term support and check-in and resources in order to support that student going forward. And never, never, never any judgment for any time students need help. We would so rather know that someone needs a little bit of extrinsic motivation and help and be able to provide that than not know and wait until they're in a situation that they'd rather not find themselves in. In addition to extrinsic motivators, it's a good time for you to think about what's your intrinsic motivator or motivators for attending medical school. What do you really want? Are you willing to put in the time, the attention, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the stress into getting what you want? So think about what your intrinsic motivators are in the context of becoming a doctor, but also think about your successes in the past. What was it internally and what was in your drive that caused you to be successful in that situation? How are you intrinsically motivated? How are you able to push yourself? And could you transfer those types of intrinsic motivators and skills and that awareness to being successful in medical school, or even towards taking the next step in your medical student journey, whether that's, beginning general principles in January of this year, or whether that's taking a next step and calling an admissions counselor, whether that's filling out an application and putting yourself out there. But what's your intrinsic motivators for success? Why don't you harness those now and see where it takes you? Something else to think about as you're thinking about your intrinsic motivators is, what do you value? What do you really want to get out of life and out of your education? A lot of our students really value the gain in knowledge that they get, which happens at a hugely accelerated pace, particularly in the first 2 years. And I got to tell you, it's incredibly difficult, but it is incredibly, oh my gosh, like you will feel so good about yourself and the amount of information that you will be able to gain. You will push yourself way beyond what you thought that you were capable of, and you will push yourself even further than that. And it's really an opportunity to feel really proud of yourself, not only that you're able to do that, but also that you're able to do that and remain a whole person. Because again, it's not just about being an automaton or an ice cube in a tray. It's about you becoming a physician. You have unique things to offer based on your life experience and your work experience and your depth of empathy and your knowledge and the things that you are interested in. So all of those things that you value and that you are able to bring forward are really going to be what your patients will value in you as a physician, and what will cause your patients to trust you as a physician? What will allow for patients to literally put their lives in your hands? It's an awesome responsibility. And it is one that we are so, so privileged to be able to provide to our students. So it is not easy, as I've said multiple times in this talk. And one of the things that I have learned from my colleague, Dr. Chi, is about this concept of stress not just being one thing. Stress is actually two separate things. And this kind of like really made multiple neurons fire in my brain when I heard this. So I thought it would be helpful to share today, and maybe you would have the same reaction that I did. So stress is actually two different types of things. And maybe you've heard of this concept before, where stress is distress and eustress. So there's actually like a positive and a negative side to stress. So the negative side is the distress side, where like you experience a weight and it's really hard to move forward. And then there's also a eustress side, where there is a lot happening, a lot of demand on your time, a lot of things that are needing your attention, but you are rolling with it. You are surfing on those waves. You are able to move with it. That is eustress. You're actually taking that stimulus that is trying to push on you, and it's allowing you to rise up. So that eustress is like a positive force, whereas distress is a more negative force. So we like to try to get students onto the side of eustress as much as possible, but distress is a normal part of life as well. So we do actually have two programs that are available at OUM that help to support and increase your eustress as you are going through medical school, and reduce your distress as you are going through medical school. So the program that we have that supports eustress, that positive stress, is our Student Ambassador program. So we want all of our students, when they enter the university, to really get off on the right foot in this ultra marathon we call medical school. And so we have our student ambassadors available to help you get on pace running that race and feel good about the initial progress that you're making, so that can kind of snowball forward and you can continue to rise up, both in your knowledge and study skills, but also in how you see yourself and your font of knowledge going forward. So our student ambassadors are all experienced students at the university. They're at the level of preclinical and clinical. They are in Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Samoa, and North America as well. So they're available if you like to be able to connect with someone who's in North America and ask them like, oh, what were they doing in as they got ready for general principles, or as they started general principles, in order to put their best foot forward and start the pace of the race so that they would be ready for the USMLE, the United States Medical Licensure exam, by the time that preclinicals were over. Or maybe you want to be connecting in with an Australia-based student ambassador because you want to know a little bit more about how to get more integrated with the local study group in Brisbane, or about how to make your own study group and how those sorts of things have been successful. So our student ambassadors are available to you now as a prospective student. So if you'd like to talk to any of the student ambassadors to know a little bit more about their experience as students at OUM and the kinds of things that they do to increase eustress for themselves and others, just reach out to Ms. Janda and Ms. Camille, who are admissions counselors, and they will connect you in with an appropriate student ambassador that's going to have the information and kind of background and geographic location that you're looking for in order to answer your questions. So that's that student ambassadors program. Reach out to admissions, or you can even reach out directly to me if you you're listening to this webinar later, and maybe you're listening to the recording at 2 times speed and you'd miss that part of your notes, or you're more than welcome to reach out to me and I will connect you with our student ambassadors as well. For the distress part, we have a second program, which is called our Peer Supporters Program. We really believe that nobody knows what it's like to be a medical student and how hard it is to be a medical student, and specifically what it's like to be a medical student at OUM and how hard it is to be a medical student at OUM with some of those unique challenges than an OUM student. So our peer supporters are all OUM students who are trained but are non-medical supporters, and they provide a confidential, non-judgmental space to speak and to connect and to communicate anytime any of our students is experiencing distress and they just need a little bit of help and support. So sometimes that means just someone to listen to them and commiserate about what's going on for them as a student. Sometimes that means they need a referral to outside services or to a service within the university that can help them more. And sometimes it means just checking in with someone over time because you are going through some additional stressors in your environment that you hadn't planned on. A lot of times things happen, natural disasters occur, changes in families happen, changes in jobs, all kinds of things happen that we don't plan for that can cause distress. And we don't want that to be a barrier for our students. So one of the programs that we have available are our peer supporters. Students don't always feel comfortable disclosing things that are happening with them to other students. And where that is the case, students are always able to connect directly to me, with me as their associate dean. And I'm going to be there also to provide a non-judgmental, supportive space for you. I can provide referrals to other services, and I can also be there for you on an ongoing basis when you need. I have students who I will check in, maybe once, and they're good to go and everything is fine. And then they'll reach out to me, a year later if something else happens. And I have other students who I check in with on a weekly basis. It truly doesn't matter to me. I have office hours every single day for 2 hours that students are able to book and to meet with me for any reason. My main thing is that I want to be there for you when you have a need and help you figure out how to fulfill it. What I don't want is for you to have a need, to never speak up about it, nobody to know about it, and then you to be in a bad situation that you feel like you have to dig out of a hole. I don't want that. So instead, I would prefer to just be available to you, which I am. So I really encourage all of our current students to do that. And if you are someone who just wants to know a little bit more about what that might be like or what those services would be as a student, no worries. You are more than welcome to reach out to me now, even if you're not a student, and I will book time with you. I would love to speak with you if you want to know a little bit more. We have students who may experience distress on an ongoing basis because perhaps they have a medical condition or they're caring for a family member that has a medical condition. And this causes them to not be able to participate in our classrooms on the same basis as other students. So in those types of cases, we have a third program, which is called AEI, Accommodation, Equity, and Inclusion Planning. So for students who have chronic disease or who are caring for those with chronic disease or have other types of significant caregiving responsibilities or other significant long-term changes to their environment, the AEI program is in place for that. So we will make any accommodations that are reasonable and that don't change the structure or level of the program. If you are someone that, this is kind of like bumping, oh, this is me. If you are someone that is raising a flag for and you want to know a little bit more about the AEI program, when you talk to an admissions counselor, they have a little sheet they can give you that gives you more information about, how your personal information would be handled in order to qualify for AEI and the types of accommodations that we provide. Or again, you're welcome to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to provide you some further information. And for any students who are starting in January cohort or are planning to or applying in the July cohort and want to start doing your AEI planning now, please feel free to get in contact with me or just email AEI@OUM and they will get back to you and give you some further information. So those are some of the programs we have for distress and eustress. Stress, normal part of being in medical school, but that doesn't mean that you are required to handle it all on your own. We have services and supports at the university for that. We also really encourage each and every one of our students to have a support system in place when they start medical school. So a support system is something that you'll hear me talk a lot about in our pre-orientation and orientation sessions. And if you've been attending the webinar series this year, you'll hear me just pepper in from time to time the importance of a support system. It really makes a difference when you have people in your corner. That's how it is for many different aspects of life, especially things that are difficult to get through. Having someone that is there to support you in various ways, whether that's, someone that cooks dinner for you on Sunday night, or whether that's someone that watches a child on a day that school is out so that you can study for an exam the next day, or whether that's your faith community, just being there, whether that's through fellowship or through prayer, whether that's your pickleball team, whether that is your extended family, or whether that is your core group of friends, your boss and your work colleagues. All of those people can be part of your support system. So I encourage you, in addition to thinking about your motivation and values over this holiday period, to think about, if I were in medical school, who would I choose in my support system? Who would be in my corner? Who already is in my corner and has already been telling me that I need to be a medical student, and that what am I waiting for? These are the people that we want you to have surrounding you and helping to lift you up and increasing your eustress, but also because it's just important to be a part of a community and to have a community around you. We take really seriously our OUM community and each of you as a member, and then surrounding you as satellites should be the individual members in your support system as well. So now is a time for thinking about family and friends and community members, and who's there to support you, who's always been there to support you, and who will be there to support you through this experience. The last kind of area that I want to speak about is, keeping healthy body and healthy mindset during medical school, or even at the time point of thinking about going into medical school. And the things that I'm going to mention are things that you will have heard of before, and they're not going to be a surprise to you. But I want to invite you over this holiday season and over this time of contemplation to think about if there's one of these that I've heard about for a really long time and that I've always kind of piqued my interest, but I've never tried. Or whether there are things on this list that I'm currently doing that actually aren't really serving me, that aren't filling my cup, or that aren't keeping me healthy, that maybe I want to jettison, this year and make room for something that is. So that's why I want to mention this list, not because I think it's something that you've never heard of before, but rather because it's a time for you to think about, is there something that I could add? Is there something that I could get rid of? And by the way, it's always important to get rid of things and not just add, because we want to have a healthy balance of use, stress, and distress. The more things we add, sometimes the further weight we get weighed down by. And so sometimes the healthy choice is letting something go, especially if it can be picked up later on. Okay, so the things I want to mention that are on this list, again, they're not things that are new to you, but they're powerful. So the first is thinking about breathing. It's so simple. We do it without thinking all the time, but thinking about breathing, thinking about consciously taking breaths and using that as a grounding and calming force can be very, very powerful. I think that we are so busy with so many things all of the time that we forget the essential pieces that make us human and that connect us together. And breath is one of those things that connects us. We are all breathing to get through the day. We are all breathing, taking our next breath in order to move ourselves forward, in order to pursue our dreams and goals, in order to help others. So breath can be a really powerful thing. Sometimes it's, using specific techniques, like box breathing, for example, and sometimes it's just taking a moment to recognize that we are breathing and to have some gratitude for that. So wherever you're at on the spectrum of work with the breath, I just encourage you, maybe just think about that. Maybe think about, one time tomorrow, I'm just gonna put on my mind breathing and consciously focus on my breathing for 1 minute and see how I feel and see if that's something that's whatever, Dr. McGuire, this is makes no sense to me. Or maybe this is for other people, not for me. Again, no judgment. Or maybe that 1 minute is going to make a difference for you and is going to push you to pursue it further. Or maybe that 1 minute isn't going to make a difference, but you think if you stick with it, that maybe it will. So any of those things are fine, but give it a try. I'll challenge you to do that. The second is meditation or prayer, depending on your spirituality and personal beliefs, but taking time to be reflective, to give thanks, to process things in a way that allows you to step outside or inside your being can be very powerful and very helpful as a grounding force and as something that enables you to reconnect with yourself as a whole person. A lot of times, medical students across the world just start to think of themselves as passive vessels of information, and they just have to hold as much of that information as they can, and that's not really about them. But that's not what we believe here. We believe that it's truly about you. So taking a little bit of time in a day or in a week to be reflective on everything that you have done and everything that you're doing and how that connects to the broader world, whether that is the physical world, the emotional world, the spiritual world, the universe writ large, or other types of worlds that you can think of, can be a powerful and grounding space to be in, particularly if you are feeling a level of stress related to all the decisions that you have to make, all of the ways that you need to move forward and maybe don't feel motivated to, or don't have time to, or feel ill or tired or exhausted or stressed. Just bringing yourself back to your place in the broader scheme of things can be very helpful. The next one is exercise. So a lot of, websites will say things like, yoga and like lower impact exercises, but it really is very personal. I think the main thing is to make sure you have physical activity of some kind. And for example, when we talk with our students about how to study, we include activity as a part of that because people need movement in the body in order to feed and fill the mind. And so it's really important, particularly for students at OUM who are doing their preclinicals mostly in a format like this online where they're sitting in front of a computer. It's really important that there is physical activity that's incorporated into study and that there's break time that incorporates physical activity. It's good for the regeneration of neurotransmitters. It's good for the strengthening of connections between neurons. It's good for the cardiovascular system. It's good for the digestive system. When you're exercising, sometimes we will encourage students to be thinking about the system that they happen to be studying. So it's a really helpful tool as part of this ultra marathon of medical school to ensure that you're incorporating physical activity into that. And again, I get it that this is not something new to anybody. You've been hearing since you were in kindergarten that you needed to have physical activity to be healthy. But just because you're an adult now and you get to make all your decisions for yourself doesn't mean that you shouldn't still get a little bit of advice that you still need to move your body and it's still important to do so. Sleep. Don't forget. Don't forget to sleep. It is so important for your well-being and your continued motivation and your ability to just get up day after day and go through the motions that are required to get through a program like this. And also, sleep is very important for processing the information that has been gained during the day. And even more importantly, making connections between the different types of information that you have stored in your brain. So, for example, when you're in medical school, you take the cardiovascular system, and then after that, you take the urinary system. But when you're in urinary system, it's not like you can forget what's happening in the cardiovascular system because there's a lot of things happening in the cardiovascular system that are going to be connected to how the urinary system functions. So part of being in medical school is not only learning what you have at that particular time, but now integrating that across. And sleep is a really powerful tool for supporting that integration. And in our study skills class, we talk about other powerful tools for doing that, such as concept or mind mapping as well, but we can talk about that at another time. The last thing is, again, make sure that you are a whole person. You come in as a whole person with a personality and with interests and hobbies and things that you like to do and people that you like to spend time with. And when you are in medical school, you should still have and be a person with interests and people that you like to spend time with and entertainments that you like to have. The only difference is that you will have slightly less time to do those kinds of things. So instead, you have to make the time that you do devote to that count. So instead of having, an entire Saturday to spend going to a triple feature movie with friends, instead, you're going to have to, meet with your group of friends and have a really deep chat or a really intense game of Uno or a great walk along the beach and connect during a shorter period of time. So we're not saying don't have friends, don't have interests, don't have activities. You just are going to have to be a little bit more creative and thoughtful in how you spend your time doing those things in order to continue to fit them in. It's important that you do fit them in. I would even encourage you as you're going through your study plan to think about, am I going to put a block every Saturday that ensures that I'm going to the gym with my gym buddies, even though I've got, exams at a certain time on Saturday, I'm going to put that block in because it's going to help me to do that integration. It's going to help me to increase my youth stress because these gym buddies are also people that are part of my support system and really help me feel confident about approaching things that are difficult for me because we've been approaching things that are difficult with each other in terms of like our weightlifting or our fitness goals in the gym for years. So they're part of my support system. They're people that I want to ensure that I make time for. So all those things are important too. We want you to be you and a whole person. We want you to continue to have those friendships and relationships and those types of things that fill your cup. The one thing that I will say is going back to what I said at the earlier part of this is like, we want you to add things, but also you're going to have to let things go. It's an unfortunate truth that some of the hobbies that you love, some of the television that you watch, some of the people that you enjoy spending time with are not going to be the healthiest choices for you whilst you're in medical school. That doesn't mean any of those things are inherently bad. It just means those aren't for you during the time that you are in school, and that's okay. You can let them go for the time being, and you can pick them up again at another point. Life is funny. There's opportunities for change all the time. As long as you let things go with gratitude and respect, they can come back to you when you need them again in the future. So that is what I wanted to talk with you about in terms of balancing bodies and minds in medicine and some of the ways that we support our students to do that at OUM. It's a tricky thing to do. It's not something that is a menu item or something that is one size fits all, but we find that our students are successful in doing it because they have the OUM community behind them, because they know to reach out for support when they need it. And of course, because they are amazing and smart and complete individuals. And we really hope that you will find yourself as part of our community as well, because we know that each of you has something unique to offer that will really enrich our community in ways that we don't even know yet. So thank you so much for being with me throughout the year and throughout this session as well. I've really enjoyed getting to know some of you through other sessions that we've hosted and through some of the questions that you have asked in webinars this year. If you're joining us as you start your medical student journey in January, I look forward to welcoming you at orientation. And if you're not quite there yet, no judgment, looking forward to maybe being able to welcome you in the future. And I will see you again next year at our January webinar. If you have any questions in the interim, please reach out to myself or our admissions counselor, your admissions counselor. Our university is closed over the festive period, so you've got about 10 days to have any burning questions that you may still have answered. And after that, we open again after the 5th of January, and you may need to wait until that time. But of course, we're going to do our best to get you an answer if you get to us before our university closure. I wish each and every one of you a happy, healthy, and restful holiday season. And I look forward to seeing you again as soon as I'm able to do so. Thank you so much, and see you again soon. Bye for now.